right, well, good morning, fellow patriots.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm Karen Confederac, and I wish to welcome each of you to the 311th consecutive Friday meeting of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. Thanks to each of you for joining us as we continue our celebration of National Military Appreciation Month and demonstrate our gratitude and support for the men and women serving in America's uniformed services and their families. Kelly, you got me going. During the previous 2 weeks, our Red Friday group commemorated Silver Star Banner Day, Military Spouse Appreciation Day, and Children of Fallen Patriots Day. Today, we recognize the service and sacrifices of those currently serving in America's armed forces. These commemorative events are followed by Memorial Day, a solemn occasion to honor the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. In advance of Memorial Day, our Red Friday group has scheduled a pre-Memorial Day commemoration on Friday, May 23rd. We sincerely hope that you will join us for that pre-Memorial Day program as we honor Americans' 1.3 million service members who have died while wearing the cloth of our nation. Every one of these commemorative events is undoubtedly of immense importance to our military and civilian communities, their families, and loved ones. So, we thank you for your patriotism and for recognizing the significance of each of the commemorative events in May. And we are proud to have you join us in a show of solidarity and support for America's deployed warfighters. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag of our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We don't have any new guests this morning, so I don't have to do that duty. However, we'll go right into our program. During the past 5 years, this Red Friday group has been privileged to have a host of guest speakers deliver presentations on an array of informative topics. Many of our keynote speakers have represented organizations that deliver important services to our veteran community. This morning, we will be introduced to a National Veterans Program that few, if any of you, may be familiar with. It's a vital service that virtually flies under the radar, but is so desperately needed. It's an all-volunteer program that is focused on ensuring that the cremains of unclaimed veterans are given an appropriate burial with the dignity and respect they have earned as a veteran of our armed forces. The program I reference is the Missing in America Project, and we are pleased to have Mark Wells join us to highlight the significance of this highly regarded project. Mark honorably served our nation for 8 years in the U.S. Air Force as a flight medic. Following his discharge, Mark trained to become a respiratory therapist with a specialization in trauma. He retired in June of 2020 after working 37 years as a therapist. Mark has been involved in the Missing in America Project in various roles for 12 years and currently serves as the Arizona State Coordinator as well as the National Training Officer for the Missing in America Project. Please welcome Mark Wells. Good morning.
All right, good morning. All right, well, I won't go through and introduce myself again, but I am the Arizona State Coordinator for the Missing in America Project. And as what we do is we visit funeral homes, we work with county fiduciaries, county medical examiner's office, and we are looking for the unclaimed cremains of veterans that are sitting on the shelf. Many people don't know this, but there are literally thousands of cremains sitting in funeral homes, in storage units that nobody has claimed. So when we find these, we will go in, we will do a complete inventory, and then we take their information, we submit it to a secure database at the National Personnel Record Center back in St. Louis, and let them tell us whether or not they are a veteran. If they are a veteran, the National Cemetery Scheduling and Eligibility Office actually goes through a process where they try to locate next of kin. We do occasionally find next of kin, but due to family dynamics, sometimes the family does not wish to claim their father or their brother or their uncle, whatever the case may be. And sometimes, the majority of the time, there's no family whatsoever. So when we get those where there is no family, that's where I step in, and I will claim these cremains, and I will claim them as my family. Now, this started back in, November of 2006, when our founders, Richard Sessler and Fred Salante, both of them were veterans, had a service at the Idaho State Cemetery. They buried 21 veterans, and they had 350 people in attendance. So the question is how could this happen, and what can we do about it? So in January 2007, my app went nationwide. So that's our purpose, is to locate, identify, and inter the unclaimed remains of American veterans. This means tracking them down for the forgotten remains, verifying their service, and working with the Department of Veterans Affairs to provide proper military burials. That's one thing the military promised every veteran when we signed on that dotted line, is that we would receive an honorable and dignified burial. Thank you. So that's what the Missing in America Project is attempting to do. We want to make sure that every veteran gets what they were promised, and we hold our government accountable. As of today, I just checked the numbers this morning before I left. We have visited, nationwide, 2,898 funeral homes across the country. We have found 35,438 cremains, and we've identified, thank you. We have identified 7,336 veterans. Of those, we have provided full military honor burial for 7,121 veterans across the nation. Here in Arizona, we have interred 1,349 veterans, 37 spouses, and 5 children, dependent children. Next Wednesday, the 21st, out at the National Cemetery, I'm having another service, and we are going to be adding 15 more veterans to that number. And these go back, some of these go back years and years, decades. The summer of 2023, like say we are nationwide, the summer of 2023, our Washington State team walked into a funeral home, inventoried their a bunch of cremains that they had, and they found a little girl, Bessie May. Every time I tell this story, I just get goosebumps and chills. Bessie May was born in October of 1920. Bessie died in March of 1921, just shy of her 6-month-old birthday. So we have genealogists that work with us. Genealogy started researching her, found out that her father passed away 2 years after she did, and he was buried at the National Cemetery in Prescott. So Washington State coordinator reached out to us and asked if we wanted her cremains. We were glad to accept her cremains. They were shipped to us, and then January of 2024, we took her cremains up to Prescott, provided Bessie May with a service, and then we opened her father's grave and interred her with her father after being separated for 103 years. We have buried Civil War veterans, Civil War veteran spouses. We've even here in Phoenix had a Spanish-American War veteran that we provided services for. So Civil War, Spanish-American, those type of things, that takes a lot of work and a lot of time trying to verify service records, because that's just, the VA has nothing on it. But our genealogist, if you need to find a needle in a haystack, they'll find it. And they will find these records for these veterans. Excuse me. So the purpose of the Missing in America Project is a simple one, but the impact is profound. It's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about closing a circle that should have never been left open in the first place. Each ceremony, each urn reminds us that service does not end when the uniform comes off, and gratitude should not fade just because time passes. So the Missing in America Project calls on all of us, veterans, families, volunteers, and citizens, to remember, honor, and restore. It's a reminder that the measure of a nation isn't just in its power or its prosperity, but in how it cares for those that have given so much. All right, that was Clyde Taylor. He was the Arizona State coordinator. He has now moved on to where he is vice president of the board of directors, and he handed it down to me. And Dwayne Avey, he is still an escort rider. We do, like I say, we do have a service coming up next week out at the National Cemetery. We have 15 veterans. I'm going to have 2 family members there present. So I have requested, we have 1 veteran that we are providing service is an Army veteran, and one of the other veterans is a Marine veteran. So I've requested the Marine Corps Honor Guard and the Army Honor Guard, and they will present family with the flags. I encourage anybody that wants to come out to come out. You can participate. We have people that just show up. They want to carry urns. They want to carry flags. It's a very nicely done service. We will have guest speakers. Takes about 30 minutes or so. But we are the only family that these veterans have, generally speaking. They have nobody else. So my app and whoever shows up, we become their family. So I hate seeing these veterans being sent off with no family. So I encourage anybody that wants to come on out. All right, thank you so much.
This is a certificate welcoming you to the Order of the Red. East Valley Red Friday Patriots hereby recognize and commend Mark Wells for his untiring and selfless support of the U.S. Armed Forces, National Veteran Initiatives, and the U.S. deployed service members.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Red Friday
Awesome.
that may fit on your hand. I'm gonna put it on your shirt. Put it on there. There you go. I'm gonna hand you the studs. And you can put them on yourself.
I'm not going to
Takes
pin it,
Thank you
so
very much. That was amazing. I know some of my chapter members from DAR will be at the ceremony on Wednesday, the 21st. We are all aware that more recently there have been numerous natural disasters around the world that have been devastating for those affected. Some of those natural disasters include severe storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, and flooding across the U.S., wildfires in North America, and earthquakes in Myanmar and Thailand. Other notable events include a cholera outbreak in Ghana and various flood and severe storm events across multiple countries, much less ongoing war in multiple regions around the world. It seems never-ending. We are privileged to have as a member of our Red Friday Patriots group a gentleman who is often dispatched to the heart of those areas affected by disaster. Since 2022, he has personally made 7 trips to Ukraine, visiting about 12 cities, not as a member of our armed forces from which he is retired, but as part of his current work with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Joe Rozier, raise your hand, please. Joe is a retired Marine commissioned officer who spent most of his career in the information technology field. He also served as a member of the Marine Corps' acquisition professional community. He has a diploma in Bible and theology from the Moody Bible Institute, a Bachelor of Science from the University of Akron, and a Master of Science degree from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. Joe's military service afforded him the opportunity to serve in a wide variety of assignments to include company command, battalion level staff, general officer level staff, and contingency contracting. As is common, military service directed Joe around the world. Among the countries he has been deployed to are the Philippines, Korea, Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Qatar, Djibouti, and Afghanistan. Following his active duty military career, Joe Rozier joined the Federal Civil Service and continued working for the Marine Corps until his second retirement from the workforce, whereupon he commenced a full-time career in ministry. Joe Rozier is currently a chaplain on the rapid response team of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. In his role, he responds to natural disasters, including wildfires, hurricanes, tornadoes, and man-made disasters such as mass shootings. His most recent deployment as a chaplain was to Los Angeles, California, serving at one of the sites of the recent wildfires, the Palisades Fire. This morning, Joe will share with us the initiatives that are ongoing by Samaritan's Purse, a sister organization of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Samaritan's Purse is an organization focused on supporting our newer veterans and their families. The initiative is called Operation Heal Our Patriots and Team Project. Please welcome Joe Rozier.
Good morning, fellow patriots. I don't know whose bio she just read, but I can't wait to meet that guy. So, man, he sounds incredible, whoever he is. As mentioned, my wife Susan and I are privileged to serve as Rapid Response Team chaplains with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. I have a clicker, don't I? There you go. Yep. All right. As such, we deploy around the world to disasters, both natural and man-made, offering encouragement and, where possible, share the good news of Jesus Christ. Most of the time, we serve alongside our sister organization, as mentioned, Samaritan's Purse. We often describe Samaritan's Purse as the hands and feet of Jesus. Volunteers serving with Samaritan's Purse provide immediate, practical support to homeowners and individuals in the aftermath of a natural disaster. This morning, I'd like to tell you about a military initiative of Samaritan's Purse. But before I begin, a quick, true story. A few months ago, my wife Susan and I were at dinner with our daughter and grandchildren. We were at one of those Asian hibachi places where they burn the food in front of you and build the volcano with the onion rings, and periodically a chef will throw shrimp at you. You know the place. Across from us were another couple, and since the gentleman was wearing a veteran's cap, we struck up a conversation. Turns out the man and wife were relatives of Dick Nation, yes, from East Texas. And I'm not making this up. Now, two thoughts immediately came to my mind. One, Dick's relatives are not nearly as bad as Dick has led us to believe. This couple was quite normal, in fact. And actually, they were wonderful people, and it was a pleasure meeting them. But more importantly, my second thought, was this what happens when you skip Red Friday? So let this be a warning to us all. If you skip out attending a Red Friday, Dick Nation will send his relatives out all the way from East Texas to find you, no matter where you think you're hiding. And he may not send the good ones like he sent after us. So just saying. May is indeed Military Appreciation Month, and as stated, last Friday was National Military Spouse Day. We know our spouses and families matter, or as one writer put it, behind every uniform is an entire family that serves. Given that much of today's volunteer force is married, answering our nation's call at a moment's notice is made possible by the unwavering support of a spouse at home, which backs us smack dab into another truth. War breaks things and hurts people. Win or lose, there are casualties on both sides. And while many battle wounds are physical, marriages are often the uncounted casualty of war. This reality led the staff of Samaritan's Purse to approach its president, Franklin Graham, president of Samaritan's Purse and son of the late Billy Graham, to suggest that Samaritan's Purse as an organization needed to do something for these young, hurting military families, particularly those who had joined after 9/11. That simple ask gave birth to a program called Operation Heal Our Patriots. Starting in the summer of 2012, Operation Heal Our Patriots, or we call it OHOP, has flown hundreds of 9/11 era wounded veterans and their spouses to Alaska for a week of physical renewal, spiritual refreshment, and marriage enrichment. They hike, fish, bear watch, and just enjoy nature, but are also challenged and brought face to face with issues that they were hiding or avoiding. And this is done by a small cadre of retired military chaplains. They're not just left raw, however, they're encouraged and given the tools to make their marriages and lives better. You ask any OHOP alumni, and they will tell you that one moment they were just arriving on a plane, and all too soon that week arrived, and they were hugging people and saying goodbye. Many of the program alumni state that this week in Alaska saved their marriage. Many had divorce papers sitting on the table waiting for their signature upon return. And a few of the alumni, and I've heard this personally, have stated that the time in Alaska literally saved their lives. Alaska is only the launching point. Franklin's son, Edward, is a former Army Ranger and combat veteran of the Middle East. And he challenged his dad that while Alaska and a week in Alaska is nice, we owe these veterans much more. So Samaritan's Purse stays connected with these veteran families for life, ministering to them as they face various daily struggles. There is an extensive aftercare program of chaplains throughout the country continuing to provide care for these couples long after their week in Alaska ends. There are also natural reunions, regional marriage retreats, all designed to support the companies and these couples and to build on what they learned during that week in Samaritan's Lodge, Alaska. If Samaritan's Purse did nothing else, what it was doing there would be good, but it was also realized even more was needed. Something was missing. As one veteran put it, when you serve in the military, you wake up every day with something to do, a mission. Then it's all taken away from you, and it leaves a huge hole. It leaves an unfortunate void. Enter Team Patriot, a new Samaritan's Purse program which gives OHOP alumni the opportunity to serve as a team again in areas of natural disaster. It gives these veterans purpose and confidence as they once again are part of a mission bigger than themselves. Recently, a homeowner, a World War II veteran who fought with the 82nd Airborne in Europe, was on the receiving end of service by Team Patriot after a tropical storm had flooded his home, and he shared these thoughts. I was in World War II and proud of it. I'm glad God picked me to be a veteran. All my family are military personnel. My 4 boys, my uncle, my grandpa, we're all veterans. I had to join the crew too. A good generation like ours is always wondering, will there be somebody to take our place to help other people when they need help? I see it now with veterans helping veterans. I see it very clearly. A Team Patriot member described this impact this way. I spent most of my adult life learning how to do harm, to hurt, and how to shut life out. Serving with Team Patriot is the exact opposite. You're working in Jesus' name, and you're working in love. And finally, from Franklin himself, these heroes have made tremendous sacrifices for our nation, and I am grateful to God that they are experiencing true freedom through the power of the gospel. May this be an encouragement of what we see God doing in the lives of veterans all around us, and hopefully a reminder that, like these veterans and their families, you matter as well. Thank you.
Tomorrow, Saturday, May 17th, the third Saturday in May, we celebrate Armed Forces Day. This day is dedicated to honoring and recognizing the men and women who currently serve in the United States Armed Forces. It's a time to express our gratitude and support for their service and sacrifice. Here to highlight the significance of this commemoration is my husband, Ted Confederac, Colonel, U.S. Army retired. Ted is a graduate of both the Army's Basic Airborne School and Ranger School and completed tours and hours in both Germany and Vietnam. He earned a Master of Arts degree in Political Science from the University of Illinois at Chicago, where he also began a postgraduate study in public policy analysis. His major military assignments included Battalion Command, Chief of the Counter-Drug Division, Headquarters 6th U.S. Army, Branch Chief, Future Force Integration, Headquarters Department of the Army, and Chief of Future Force Integration, Army Directorate, National Guard Bureau. Ted served our country for 30 years, retiring in 1998. After retiring from the Army, Ted moved to Arizona and taught high school, Army JROTC, at both Trevor Brown and Highland High Schools before retiring for the second time in June 2013. And that's where we met, at Highland High School. He served as a volunteer at the Arizona Railway Museum in Chandler and as vice president of the territorial chapter of the Association of the U.S. Army, and is also active in the Military Officers Association of America. Please welcome Ted Confederac.
When I realized Karen was going to do my introduction, I had some degree of trepidation. I'm very grateful that you didn't go into all the other sort of details. I haven't been up here with you for a long time, but you might recall the last time I was on this stage, I had some anecdotal comments about sergeant majors in general and about our favorite sergeant major in particular. Unfortunately, Dick wasn't here that day. He didn't get to hear any of it. I'm not going to repeat it because the next week when I was here, I started talking to Dick about it, and he gave me that look that sergeant majors give, and he said, I heard about it. So I've been wondering for months what's going to happen. You all know payback is a son of a gun. So Saturday morning, I think, Dick sent me a text message and said, hey, would you mind helping me out doing a presentation? I said, sure, when? He said, this Friday. I was like, oh boy. Seriously, Karen and I are very glad to help Dick out. You all know he's been going through some vocal problems, and we're very, very happy to assist him in carrying on and giving you another presentation for Red Friday. So without any further nonsense from me, beginning last Monday, May 12th, and running through tomorrow, Saturday, May 17th, America commemorates Armed Forces Week. Tomorrow, the nation will commemorate Armed Forces Day. Both Armed Forces Week and Armed Forces Day are strategically scheduled right in the heart of National Military Appreciation Month, which began on the 1st of May. The commemoration provides an opportunity for Americans to remember, honor, and support all those who currently serve on active duty and in the reserve components of all 6 branches of the U.S. military. If there are any of you here this morning that have a son, daughter, grandson or granddaughter, niece or nephew, or a close family member that is currently serving either on active duty or in the reserve components, would you please stand if you are so able? So starting on my left, would you please state your name and your relationship to your warrior and their branch of service?
Frederick Hammond, retired Chief Petty Officer, and I have my great-grandson that's in the Army. And I also have one in the Navy. He's on a carrier right now, USS Eisenhower.
My name is Leroy McKimmey. My grandson is in the Army and just got back from a deployment in Korea and is thinking he's going to be going again. Thank you.
My name's Ken Stossel, Army 60 to 64. I know I don't look that old, but I've got 2 grandsons, one about to graduate from Washington State, and he is already committed and signed up for the U.S. Army National Guard. He wants to make that a home. And the older boy, I'm proud to say, just made his captaincy in the U.S. Army at Fort Riley, Kansas. And I think they might have a lifer on that one. But very dedicated young man, and I'm proud of him. So other than that, that's it.
For those of you who are standing here before us who have a family member currently serving, take pride in their service to our country because they are truly among the few who stand watch to ensure our freedom. I think we owe these service members that guard our freedom, who are represented by these gentlemen, one resounding hooah. Hooah. Thanks, gentlemen. Today, I want to provide you a glimpse into the state of America's armed forces. Please note that this information was obtained from a variety of sources in order to make it as accurate as possible. Think about this. The population of the United States is currently 341 million. America currently has 1.3 million service members on active duty, 761,000 serving in the reserve components, for a total of 2.1 million. Therefore, military personnel currently represent a mere 0.5% of the total U.S. population and slightly less than 1% of the entire adult population of the United States. It's important to note that there's been a dramatic change in end strength over the past few decades. In fact, the number of active duty service members dropped from 3.5 million in 1968 during the Vietnam War/Cold War era to about 1.3 million with today's all-volunteer force. That represents a 63% reduction in force structure. So again, to those of you who may have family members serving, you've got every right to pump your chest as a display of pride and respect. Now, unlike Veterans Day, which honors those who have previously served our nation, and unlike the upcoming Memorial Day commemoration, which honors those who died while wearing the cloth of our nation, Armed Forces Day is the proper day to honor all men and women currently serving in defense of the United States. If we dive into history, we'll find that this single day of celebration of our armed forces stemmed from the unification of armed forces under the Department of Defense. It was President Harry Truman who led the effort to establish a single holiday for citizens to come together and thank our military members for their patriotic service. In August of 1949, Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson announced the creation of an Armed Forces Day to replace the separate Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Forces days. Reflecting back to 1963, President John F. Kennedy in a public address said, and I quote, "Our servicemen and women are serving throughout the world as guardians of peace, many of them away from their homes, their friends, and their families. They are visible evidence of our determination to meet any threat to peace with measured strength and high resolve. They are also evidence of the harsh but inescapable truth that the survival of freedom requires great cost and commitment and great personal sacrifice." Kennedy went on to say, "A word to the nation, guard zealously your right to serve in the armed forces, for without our armed forces there will be no other rights to guard." Let me repeat that phrase, a word to the nation, guard zealously your right to serve in the armed forces, for without our armed forces there will be no other rights to guard. That is a profound prophecy. It's simple, eloquent, straightforward, and precautionary. No mincing of words, and with the threats America now faces, it is as true today as it was in 1963 following the Cuban Missile Crisis. Regarding the 2.1 million warfighters now serving, approximately 228,000 warriors and DoD personnel are currently deployed outside the United States, with thousands of those personnel assigned to classified missions in locations that the government refuses to disclose. Those deployed personnel include regimental reconnaissance companies, special tactics squadrons, U.S. Army Delta Force operators, U.S. Navy SEAL teams, and the U.S. Army Intelligence Support Activity operators. Military forces not included in the 2.1 million total include retired and standby reserves, along with about 41,000 active duty members of the United States Coast Guard, which is operated by the Department of Homeland Security and not the Department of Defense. Additionally, there are over 7,000 Coast Guard reservists and 21,000 Coast Guard auxiliaries that provide service over 3.4 million square miles of exclusive economic zones. America's retired personnel, or our standby reserves, and our Coast Guard personnel can be called into service were a national emergency to exist, thereby substantially adding to U.S. Armed Forces end strength. In addition to its military personnel, the Department of Defense employs 750,000 civilian workers through appropriated funds. These funds are part of the budget allocated by the government at the start of each fiscal year, intended for contractors who, while not serving in a military capacity, are integral to the federal civil service system. As of the beginning of this year, reported active duty strength is the following: 454,000 in the United States Army, 332,000 in the United States Navy, 319,000 in the U.S. Air Force, 173,000 in the Marine Corps, and 9,000 in the Space Force. It should come as no surprise that active duty military figures have fallen 63% from their peak in 1968 during the Vietnam War, leveling it off until troop size dropped again in 1991 following the official end of the Cold War. Since then, troop levels have remained relatively stable, even during the U.S. conflicts in Afghanistan in 2001 and Iraq in 2003. Last year, in fiscal 2024, the Department of Defense's armed service branches recruited 12.5% more people than in the year prior, despite a challenging and disinterested recruiting market. In fact, the services increased the number of recruits from 200,000 in fiscal year 2023 to 225,000 in FY 2024. Additionally, the services had a 35% increase in written contracts, and the active components delayed entry program started fiscal year 2025 with a 10% larger pool. Branches that fell shy of their recruiting goals stated the shortfall was partially due to the strength of the U.S. economy, low trust in institutions among the Gen Z demographic, and a smaller pool of applicants compared to past generations. As it pertains to demographics, every branch of the military has a substantially higher overall representation of racial minorities than the U.S. population at large. From 2010 to 2024, the Armed Forces representation of racial minorities rose to 31.2%, remaining higher than the 24.5% non-white demographic share of the U.S. population in 2023. Today, the average age of an active duty military member across all branches of service is 28.5 years. Approximately 900,000 active duty members hold a high school diploma, GED, or some college education, compared with 197,000 members holding a bachelor's or higher college degree. As of 2024, women constituted an average of 17.5% of all active duty military personnel, for a total of 229,000 members. For context, women were first granted the ability to serve as permanent members of the armed forces under the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, signed into law in June of 1948. Additionally, a 1975 public law allowed women to be admitted into military academies, furthering their mobility within the senior ranks of the armed forces. Of significance is that this year the United States will spend $850 billion on its military, making it the country with the highest military spending worldwide by a significant margin. That's $2,492 per person in the United States. China is ranked second, with some analysts estimating the People's Republic of China spending upwards of $700 billion on their military. And it appears the U.S. will not lose its ranking anytime soon. Our military spending is predicted to increase steadily until 2033, and estimates suggest that defense spending will exceed $1 trillion by 2029. The United States is also the world's third largest active duty military in terms of manpower, with China ranking first, India second, North Korea fourth, and Russia fifth. Military service is compulsory in China, Russia, and North Korea, while India has an all-volunteer force. Today, the men and women who defend our freedom face unprecedented challenge, deployed for many months to austere locations around the globe, far from the comfort at home and loved ones. They sacrifice much and sometimes pay the ultimate sacrifice so that future generations of America may share the blessings of liberty. However, the blessings of a free society are fragile. As currently postured, the U.S. military is at a significant risk of not being able to defend America's vital interests, specifically where multiple major armed conflicts may erupt simultaneously. This is not speculative hyperbole. I can tell you that when I was in the Pentagon, we worked on what was called a 2-MERC scenario, MERC being multiple regional contingency. The game plan was fight one, hold in the other till we beat them in the first one, and went and defeated them in the second one. Many of the planners in the Pentagon were telling the senior leadership at that time, and this is, to give you context, 96 to 97. We didn't have the force structure then to do it. And simultaneously, the reserve components, primarily the combat arms structure in the reserve component, was being drawn down. It's not hyperbole. This fragility is the inevitable result of years of prolonged deployments, underfunding, poorly defined priorities, widely shifting security policies, exceedingly poor discipline in program execution, and a profound lack of seriousness across the grossly politicized Washington national security establishment, even as foreign and domestic threats to the U.S. have surged. Over the past 3 years, this has been compounded by the spiraling cost of U.S. support for Ukraine's defense, Russia's aggression, which is further complicated by the limited willingness of allies in Europe to shoulder a greater share of the burden. The war has exhausted the limited inventories of equipment, munitions, and supplies, all supporting countries, as well as exposing the limitations of the current industrial base that will be required to replenish them. In many cases, sophisticated weapons are purchased on a contract basis. When that contract expires and there are no further orders for those weapon systems, the tooling, the factories, and the personnel who build those weapon systems go away. So it's not just a matter of starting up the production line again. In many cases, it's a matter of rebuilding it from the ground up. Now the United States maintains a military force to protect the homeland from attack and to safeguard its interests abroad. But there are obviously other uses. For example, to assist civil authorities in times of emergency or to deter enemies. But this force's primary purpose historically has been to make it possible for the U.S. to physically impose its will on an enemy in defense of our nation and its vital interests. Therefore, if we are to get over this hump, it's critical that the American people understand the condition of the United States military with respect to America's vital national security interests, threats to those interests, and the context within which the U.S. might have to use hard power to protect them. Make no mistake in understanding America's resolve. When America is again drawn into armed conflict and our very freedoms are threatened, and they will be threatened much sooner rather than later, your joint armed services are fully capable of delivering shock and awe as never before unleashed on an adversary. If given a green light, free of restraint and political harness, America's superior military leadership, preparedness, determination, and speed of execution are second to none. And the devastation that can be inflicted upon an enemy intending to do us harm will be overwhelming. You can take that to the bank. In summary, let us be mindful that this year's Armed Forces Day finds tens of thousands of our nation's active and reserve members confronting the forces of global terrorism. For many of these warriors, Armed Forces Day will not be a matter of parades, picnics, and speeches, because they will surely be in harm's way. Their courage and selfless service in defense of freedom is a stirring testament to their love of country and resolve to stand ready as we lie comfortable in our beds each night. Today and every day, we patriots reaffirm our unwavering support for the 2 million American service members who fill the ranks of our armed forces. We are eternally grateful for every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman, and Space Guardian, and we deeply appreciate the sacrifices their families and loved ones make on our behalf. To those warfighters currently serving on active duty and to those serving in our reserve forces, you are national treasures. You have responded to your country's call and are to be commended for your service to our great nation, and for that, we will be forever grateful. Thanks to each of you here this morning who have joined in a show of solidarity and support for the United States military. For the United States Armed Forces and for all those who serve, may I have a profounding hooah. Hooah. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for sharing those updates on our armed forces. America has everything to be thankful for, knowing that the extraordinary men and women who are chartered with the defense of this country are the best trained, best equipped, best led, and most dedicated to their mission. In closing, we do have a few announcements. Mark has delivered an informative introduction to the Missing in America Project Veterans Recovery Program. Please be reminded that the organization, along with the National Memorial Cemetery of Arizona, will lay to rest 14 unclaimed veterans on Wednesday, May 21st. An honor ceremony will be held at the National Cemetery at 10 a.m., directly across from the Visitor Center at the main stage. This ceremony is open to all veterans groups and the general public. If you wish to attend, please see Sarah Klug or Dick Nations for more information. Sarah is not here today, but you could see me or Kelly. We will have a guest speaker joining us for our pre-Memorial Day commemoration on Friday, May 23rd and on May 30th. Please do everything possible to join us on these last 2 Fridays of National Military Appreciation Month. Your support will be appreciated. And please leave your name badges at the greeting table upon your departure. To our guests, thank you for joining us today, and we sincerely hope you'll return to share in our camaraderie and support our mission. Please know that you're always welcome at our Red Friday assemblies. As a final reminder, let's not overlook the importance of our Red Friday mission: to keep our deployed warfighters in our thoughts and prayers, and to continue to demonstrate our support for these fine men and women. Please plan on attending next week's pre-Memorial Day program. Enjoy your weekend.